Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be starting our domain analytics sessions. That will be wildlife analytics. So the agenda of today, we'll be discussing today about applications, introduction, applications in wildlife analytics, how wildlife analytics have progressed in analytics, how wildlife have improved since AI and data science are being implemented, or what are the new applications that have come up, and how wildlife is getting benefited from all of these. So we'll be discussing various scenarios or use cases where wildlife researchers are using AI and data science. And tomorrow, we'll be discussing about CRISP MLQ methodologies, and the next session after that would be exploratory data analysis and data pre-processing. So we'll be taking a use case with a data, and we'll be doing a step-by-step analysis with the help of the use case and its data about all the exploratory analysis and data pre-processing, EDA, descriptive statistics, everything. So we'll be discussing about how to clean the data, or is it a big data, or how to proceed with that data and stuff. So next would be the natural language processing. Suppose if our data is text data, then how are we to clean the data, and how are we to analyze the data and draw insights from it? And next would be data mining, supervised learning, that is k-means clustering. We'll be discussing about supervised and unsupervised model building. So we'll be discussing about supervised and unsupervised. In supervised, we'll be discussing about simple linear regression, multiple linear regression. And in unsupervised, we'll be discussing about k-means clustering, etc., etc. So these are all the topics we'll be discussing in the model building, with a use case for each one of them and its own data set to analyze and draw insight from the data, and also to understand how exactly the analytics is making progress in wildlife, and how researchers are making decisions to improve wildlife. So, introduction. As we all know, wildlife, it specifically refers to undomesticated animals. But nowadays, even undomesticated animals are being domesticated. Example, we already know circus, etc., etc. So, wildlife here plays an important or major role in the development of forests, and also in the day-to-day activities of humans. Wildlife helps in the development of ecosystem, which includes all the living, big, small, and microorganisms that live in the world or amongst us. Wildlife helps maintain balance on Earth and in the development of the ecosystem, like deserts, plains, grasslands, woodlands, forests, oceans, etc., etc. Okay, desert wildlife is completely different than the wildlife that are present in woodlands, forests, and oceans. Deserts, wild animals we see in deserts are camels, rats, snakes, etc. But camels cannot be found in forests or grasslands or oceans. So the wildlife differs from each ecosystem. The most developed areas have distinct form of wildlife, where all the organisms depend on each other for survival. Wildlife refers to animals that live in the wild and are untouched by human factors. However, most scientists are not agreeing with this statement. They believe wildlife is affected by human activities. Some wildlife threatens human safety, health, property. Suppose if you take examples for each one of them, safety, as in wildlife, as we saw in many of the news or in the social media sites, that wild animals are coming into our houses or into our secured environments and harming us. So that is the wildlife threatening of human safety. Health, recent scenario where we can see COVID-19 that impacted the whole world, and we had a very difficult time coming out of it or surviving in that situation. And property. As we also know this, elephants come into our farms or agricultural lands and destroy our crops. Not only elephants, it may be other wild animals like bisons or etc. etc. They come into our agricultural farms and destroy our crops. So that can also be taken as a threat against property for humans. And quality of life, for instance, a recent pandemic that is COVID-19. And there were many more before that too. But at the same time, it would be very wrong of us to say that we are not endangering wildlife by killing them for their products. So there are many illegal sales happening, especially the elephant tusks. Okay, that is nothing but elephant ivory and pangolin scales and deer for its meat, etc. etc. We also know many more of us if we can recollect them. Destroying ocean floors for fishing purposes, capturing and preserving butterflies so we can hang it on our walls for decoration purposes, and beetles in farms for home decors, etc. However, most mild animals have value to human beings. This value, however, might be economic, educational, or emotional in nature. Even though wild animals are to be in the wild, some have adapted the lifestyle of humans. Examples: cats, dogs, rats, and many more. Scientists predicted that the global wildlife population analysis has decreased by 68% since 1970. In 1970s, if they had predicted it to be decreased by 68%, If we take the analysis of 2021 or 2020, we can assume that it has reached the mark. And presently, many species are under mass extinction in the next decade or so. We already know the wild animals which have been already extinct, and they were transported from other countries to our country so that they adapt to our nature again and start reproducing and having their separate ecosystem. Yes. So we have facts that we are allowing them till they get extinct, and we realize that they are too important for our ecosystem or the building of forest or their survival, and we try to bring them back. So how many of us agree that they are ready to adapt and they will adapt, and we will have the same benefits that we had when they were not extinct? Will we have the same results, or the situations changed and the results changed? So these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves before we destroy our nature, or before we take advantage and not care about our actions that is being reflected on our environment. We have discussed a point where wild animals have value to human beings. It might be economical, educational, and emotional in nature. Economic is where bees, suppose we farm bees. They give us honey and we sell. If we farm the bees, we don't only get honey, we get honey wax, etc. That is also a very good resource to make pure wax, and it's used in candles or to make furs, etc., etc., which is giving us the chance to economically build. Educational is where we study about these animals, about their nature, about their ecology, about their structure. It's basically biology that each one of us studied when we were in school, in college, and some of us make it a profession. So where do you think all the study we have done, seeing live, our teachers, we used to get very excited during our times when teachers used to tell you, I will see a live, we'll do an experiment on live, anything it might be, what experiment we were doing in the class for that day. So I used to be so excited, but any one of us thought that an animal or a wildlife or a life is being taken because we want to experiment something and learn something from it. And next is emotional. Dogs especially. Most of us in the world, most of us are very attached to a dog. We want a pet animal now. Every one of us, each one of our houses have a pet animal. Either it be a dog, either it be a tortoise, either it be a rabbit, anything it might be, even a cat. So what are the emotions we face? What are the emotions the animal or the wild life face when they are surviving with us, when they are being with us? Oh, I basically forgot. Cows and buffaloes, which give us milk. That is, we drink every day. It's a day-to-day consumption of food that is very important. So Dogs, cats, cows, buffaloes, even they have emotions. So they bond with us emotionally, and the lessons they teach are very great. So what are we doing to, what are the things that we are taking into consideration for them to coexist with us is what wildlife we are going to learn today. So these are the things that uh, wildlife teaches us, or wildlife is facing the issues. So among all of these that we have discussed till now, the questions we have, the solutions we want to get, how do analytics help in all of this? The technology that is being built is helping us to get a scope for improvements in wildlife. Researchers who are in the field of wildlife or anything related to wildlife, whoever the researcher is, are making use of analytics to make accurate predictions. Suppose if an animal is in the stage of extinction, what can be done to prevent so that the animal doesn't extinct is being analyzed with the help of analytics. Before, researchers used to go into the forests to collect data, and they used to come back, analyze the data, and then go back again to get the new data. So there was a long gap, take 5 years or 4 years or 3 years, where researchers has to go into the forest, take risks, and you don't even know if it is safe for them to go in and they come out alive. They have to collect the data, and then they have to come back again, do research on the data that is being collected, and then go back again to collect new data, because the environment or the ecology or even we change every year. The population grows, so they have to collect new data regularly. So this used to take a lot of time, and a lot of changes used to happen in that time period. But with the help of analytics, researchers are able to send drones. Researchers are able to collect data with fixed cameras inside the forest, so they can analyze the data, analyze their surroundings, and get data or collect data through them. These are all, and there were many more examples which we will be discussing. These are all, in all of these situations or concepts, analytics has given way for the researchers to make better improvements so that they get accurate results or predictions. Okay, so here as the first point here says, they can eradicate threats made towards wildlife and eradicate them. And here threats. What is the word in wildlife threat define? Threats against wildlife include poaching, trading, hunting. These threats can also be defined as crimes. That is wildlife crime. The researchers or anybody who have insights or are connected to wildlife say that the main reason for the decline of wildlife is the environmental changes due to pollution, which we are causing in the wildlife habitat, and also the wildlife trade, where the products are derived from non-domesticated animals, either alive or dead or killed. Products such as we discussed, elephant ivory, that is elephant tusks, pangolin scales, tortoise for their meat and shells, deers, tigers, etc., for their skins and their teeth, and so on. Bones, deer horns, to put it as decorations in the houses or anywhere, and other products. Illegal wildlife trade or wildlife crime is widespread and constitutes one of the major illegal economic activities compared to drug trafficking and weapon trafficking. Wildlife crime examples are due to trafficking of wildlife products, there is an emergence and spread of many new infectious diseases. We have seen in Kerala, there was a infectious diseases from bats. How it got spread, why it got spread, if you keep them aside, it was spread through a wild animal into our humans. New infections, diseases are faced through monkeys, through chickens. Yes, so hunting is another issue for the decline of wildlife. Stone Age people used to rely on both wild animals and plants for their food. But nowadays, it is seen as a sport or recreation or to show their power as a superior species. Climatic changes is also affecting. As we know, due to the climate changes, the Antarctic ice is melting. And researchers have found many new viruses, age-old long, buried inside the ice and are coming to life because the ice is melting, permafrost. So that is also a threat of wildlife that is spreading to humans. So if we had controlled our environmental changes, greenhouse gases, if we could not release it by burning plastics, by using plastic, by using less polluted transportation, that and all would have been prevented. The climatic changes would have been to a minimum. So emergence and spread of many new viruses from wildlife to humans, as we discussed, through bats, through chickens, through pigs, etc. Wildlife tourism. Tourism is posing a great problem to wildlife and an even greater advantage to us by using it to get income, disturbing the habitat of wildlife by entering into their territory, making them feel threatened and not safe in their own homes. As a result, they attack, they either get killed or kill us. So recently, there are many wildlife sanctuaries in our locations. Humans go into the wildlife sanctuaries and they spend their time there, a night there. But when the wild animal comes out or roams in their own homes, they disturb them and say that the animal was going to attack us. So we are entering into their territory and we are telling them to get scared of us when they have to feel safe in their own homes. To address all of these issues, researchers are depending on the growing technology. To eradicate the problems faced in the field of wildlife. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are giving way to researchers and government officials to improve, preserve, and safeguard wildlife by identifying illegal wildlife smuggling going on around the world. By browsing social media accounts like Twitter, Facebook, etc. And technology giants such as Google, Microsoft, Alibaba, eBay, and other collaborating with WWF and Traffic, which is a monitoring network, and the International Fund for Animal Welfare are using drones to track activities going on in the forest. With the help of drones, they can track all the activities like illegal hunting and erratic extractions going on in the forests. We already know that many trees are being cut down in the forest to get wood. When there are no trees left in the forest anymore, where do the wildlife go? So these activities are being controlled by drones and sensors that are being placed on the forest floors to identify the patterns of hoots. The sound that we make when we walk and animals make when they walk are different. So the researchers are coming up with technology that can identify and differentiate us with the animals and to get to know the activities that are going in the forest. Hidden cameras in the forest helps them to track not only animals and their counts or what are their activities. They also track and identify humans who are going into the forest and disturbing their environment. With wildlife data, analytics using machine learning and artificial intelligence, researchers can track and take note of the diseases or viruses that are affecting wild animals and transmitting them to humans. Through this cutting edge technology, researchers can track the species present in the wildlife and their population. This is very important to track their extinction levels and if they are getting extinct or they are improving their number. Every animal in our wildlife is very important in the survival of each other. As we know, we have a pyramid where insects are eaten by snakes. Snakes are eaten by mongoose, and a higher animal eats mongoose, and a higher animal, and so on. The pattern goes. So, if suppose say the insects are in extinct, what does snakes eat? So automatically, even they go under extinction. So if snakes go under extinction, we already know what happens. So this is why each and every animal or wildlife in our ecosystem is very important for the survival of each other. Even forests, as we cannot see and as we do not know, there are many wildlife organisms that help us in our day-to-day activities. Suppose if you want food, agriculture, the soil doesn't only depend on nutrients, but there also a question arises, where do the nutrients come from? As we know, earthworm is a friend of farmer. So here, earthworm is also a wild animal. It's also a wildlife. If that is under extinction, what would happen? How would the soil get its nutrients? Now the chemically based manures, how effective are they to the old age people, or we can depend on our grandmothers and their grandmothers, the food they used to eat and the food we are eating now? What are the changes that happen? We are using chemical based manures and products. So how much chemically induced food are we eating compared to what they used to eat? How strong are they and how strong are we now? So these factors also come into question when we take wildlife. Using wildlife data, researchers can take note of the near extinct species and try to safeguard them from extinction. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are beginning to have a significant impact on ecology and conservation sciences, where new data is gathered by placing cameras in the forest to track wildlife and collecting data and extracting information to study the species about their habitat, food consumption, food type, changes taking place due to environmental changes. habitat like us to a wildlife animal is very important. If we are cutting down trees and polluting the land, the animal's habitat gets disturbed. At the same time, they also get extinct. Suppose if we take a deer, it mainly depends, it consumes leaves, berries, etc. But when its habitat or the trees are cut down, where does it get its food from? The food consumption comes into question. And then food type. The type of food depends on animal to animal. So if the food type in the habitat is cut down, automatically the animal dies unless it gets habitated to a new environment or a new habitat. And then the researchers has to study again why it has changed its habitat, why it is adapting to new consumption of food, why and how it can adapt to its food type. So what are the changes that have been taken place for that to adapt it? So again, these are all the questions and many more that comes with it. AI is facilitating the collection of vast and fascinating data sets to analyze in no time. Researchers are working intensely to collect data and study each and every species thoroughly to understand the habitat, food consumption, food type, and changes taking place with them. So, advantages of analytics. How we are getting advanced or taking advantage of analytics that we have now. Wildlife provides a wide range of pros to society. Let's discuss one by one in detail. Okay. So the first one would be the researchers are studying wildlife species collectively using artificial intelligence to make strategies to protect them. Some of the best are listed below. AI helps conservation by detecting the activities of poaching. Artificial intelligence provides detailed information about animal species and identifying and classifying them into various classes. Suppose if you have drones, if you take the help of drones or if you are using drones, as a drone collects all the data, It identifies each and every animal and stores that data and sends it back to the servers where the researchers take that data and analyze it and classify it into various classes. So the first strategy is to detect the activities of poaching in the forest. And second, artificial intelligence provides detailed information about animal. It can be any species or any type by identifying and classifying them into various classes. Okay. Third, using AI algorithms, researchers conserve animal habitat by predicting animal migratory patterns to track the migration of birds from one place to another during their nesting seasons and their habitat in their nesting regions. We already know there are many bird sanctuaries in Karnataka, especially, where birds travels miles of distance to nest and then go back to their own places. But why? Why does that happen? Why do the birds have to travel such a long distance just to nest and then go back to their habitat? What are the factors that come into consideration? Is it the temperature? Is it the habitat? Is it the food? Or is it food type? Etc. etc. There are many questions that arises with it. Or the pattern the bird travels, what way it takes to reach a point A to a point B. There are many ways, but why does the bird follow this single pattern? And as we all know, animals have a strong sense of recognition that suppose if we're talking about birds, we take a bird. If a parent bird has traveled this way to this way, and the child bird travels the same way to reach its destination when its time comes. So why? Why is that happening? The researchers are using AI algorithms to study all of these questions that are arising with the migration patterns. Next is protection again assistant for wildlife security. That is nothing but PAWS. This is also an artificial intelligence based application that is used for predicting, analysis, and resource optimization. Fifth is the main goal of this PAWS is to assist rangers by analyzing data and giving information about the topography, animal population, paths, and forest trails. Artificial intelligence guide the system to find the best route for them to patrol and find the snare and traps laid out by the wildlife, laid out by the humans for wildlife animals by poachers. It helps rangers by detecting wildlife crime. So this POWS, which is a protection assistant for wildlife security, what it does is it predicts and it optimizes the issue that we will face or we are facing. Here, issues is a poaching, wildlife traps that are laid out for poaching of animals. This POW's main goal is to assist rangers, forest rangers, by analyzing data that is being collected through sensors or through audios or through drones, etc. And giving that information to get the topology, animal population, paths, and forest trails. Here, paths and forest trails, how it works is, if suppose using the topology or the map of the forest area, the rangers will get the intimation that animals are crossing these roads or animals are in this path. So what the rangers can do at that time is they can avoid or prevent poachers laying traps there, and they can avoid taking that paths in order to not disturb the wildlife. And they can also keep track of animals that are traveling only through that path from A to point B. And they can take notes on the paths that the animals follow to go to their destinations, their traveling destinations. It is told that elephants start from the north and go to the south in the end in a year. That was the path they always follow in a year. But that changed when we started building dams, we started diverting rivers because of our own convenience. So the animals, when they take a single path, elephants especially has a very excellent memory. But when the path they have to take is blocked, what happens is they scatter. So when they scatter, there are chances that they come into our homes or the environments or the fields which we have built. 2 years back, the elephants were there was an article about elephants who were traveling in their path, the same path they they take every year to travel from one destination to another. But in that particular year, there was a dam under construction. So the elephants stopped at the bank of that dam and scattered from there. The nearby villagers complained that the elephants have come into our farms and houses and destroyed all the crops that we had. But why did that situation arise? Because there was a dam that was blocking their path that they were taking. So if that dam was not there, the situation of going into their farms and destroying the crops would have not happened. It would have been avoided. So that is what AI algorithm researchers are building helps. It will analyze the paths that the animals are taking, and the paths can be avoided so that we do not disturb their activities. Next is a conservation matrix. Is yet another company that utilizes artificial intelligence tools and machine learning models to help researchers in monitoring wildlife conditions, disturbances, and population trends. Conservation Matrix is another company that is assisting in the conservation of wildlife. How does that company help? Is by utilizing artificial intelligence tools and machine learning models to help researchers in monitoring wildlife conditions. Conditions here is temperature, habitat, food, etc. Disturbances. Wildlife disturbances is nothing but we going into the forest, making unnecessary noise, that is by cutting trees, etc., etc. Laying out traps so that we can get economical benefit out of it, and many more. Population trends. Population trends is the population of the wildlife that they take into account. 1 year, what is their population, and next year, how much it is going to be their population. Is it going to increase or is it going to decrease? Taking the 2 years data, in the next year, they try to analyze whether the population of the wildlife increases or decreases. If it is going to decrease, what are the measures they can take to increase the population? The conservation matrix company helps with these. Another one is bees, where we get honey from, plays a most vital role in our ecosystem. By pollinating the flowers to give us food, like fruits. Fruits, we only get fruits through pollination. And to store honey, which is later consumed by us. We make different varieties of food products through honey. To save these tiny creatures, Epic.ai designed a beehive monitor to assemble data using TensorFlow, which is a Google open source machine learning framework to track various bee activities such as their patterns, bee counts, the pollen carried over, how much honey is generated per day, etc. Various bee activities is nothing but the paths the bee take, the area it covers, how much diameter from the beehive, how much distance it reaches or it takes to collect honey, etc. And bee count, how much reproduction is going on in the beehive. They have different hierarchy in beehive. So what is that hierarchy? How many server bees are there, or the count of each of their hierarchy is taken into consideration. And how much honey is being generated totally in the hive per day. Artificial intelligence helps researchers by making decisions by providing complete data and analysis reports. It gives us complete information to make, which makes it easier for us to get the data and to draw insights from it. Another interesting artificial intelligence usage to collect and categorize data on elephants surviving in forest is by placing audio recorders in the forest to monitor jungle sounds. By building different neural networks with conservation metrics, they separate these jungle sounds to identify elephants and poachers, harming them for their ivory. Elephant ivories, if we saw in National Geography or Animal Planet, we have many episodes where they identify animal tusks or elephant ivories exported. They are sold into the markets with a lot of economic value. So they have come up with an interesting artificial usage to collect and categorize data on elephants surviving in forests is by placing audio recorders. Some of us can get a doubt, why audio recorders? Audio recorders As we know, the footstep of ours and the animals, or especially here if you take elephants, is has a large difference. So it is we are able to analyze the difference in sounds in the forest and differentiate it and identify the poachers. And when we are recording these audios or audio signals, there's not only the sounds of elephants but also other animals. The artificial intelligence, which is designed, is built such a way that it can identify, analyze, clean, and give us the signals of animals and humans. That was done by building neural networks with conservation matrix. They separated these jungle sounds to identify elephants and poachers harming them for their wood. Another issue regarding wildlife crime that was addressed was roadkills. As we all know, humans are disturbing the habitat of wild animals by entering into their territory and building roads, railway tracks for easy passage from one city to another. Animals, when they come in contact with their vehicles at high speed, they're instantly killed. To minimize this problem, government has come up with motion sensor based tracking sensors using GPS. So what does this GPS do? The GPS tracking system can identify the movements of the animals and warn us of approaching animals, and many more technology improvements are being initiated like these to save wildlife. We travel from one place to another, we see a forest and there are roads built. We have encountered many cases where we ourselves come in contact with wild animals and them crossing paths or just sitting around or roaming around just beside the road. We have seen many and we have come in contact with many wild animals. So when we are going at a very high speed and they come onto the roads, either if it is they are smaller animals like peacocks, deers, etc., at that high speed they get killed. Or if it is something as elephants, when we go into contact with them, who gets, or if I put it in another word, who gets most injured? We can tell both of us because of the impact the vehicle has given on it, or we who are also getting damaged because it got impacted to something bigger. So to avoid all of these scenarios from happening, the government has come up with motion sensors. hand tracking, motion sensors based tracking sensors using GPS. The GPS tracking system can identify the movements of the animals and warners of the approaching animals. To what extent this works is secondary. Will it only work on animals or will it work even on human beings is also secondary. Or will it also identify an incoming vehicle? We cannot tell. But according to the government and articles which were written on this would be a good initiative to avoid road kills. And there are many technological improvements that are happening to get this GPS to work and give accurate predictions so that we avoid any of the damage that is happening to us and to the wildlife. So these are all of the advantages or advanced analytics that the researchers have come up with till now. And there are many more examples too. For example, as you all have observed, we have only discussed about the examples on land. Advantages that AI and artificial intelligence has done only on land. But what about oceans? To learn about them, there are many wildlife analytic tools that researchers are using to identify fish in water too. Suppose to identify whales, sharks, to learn their habitat, to learn their patterns, to learn their migratory patterns. Suppose there are some fishes who come into the fresh waters to lay their eggs and go back into the oceans. So why that is happening? What are the reasons for that to happen? Will the freshwater fishes survive in the ocean and vice versa? Why do they have to specifically come into the fresh waters to lay their eggs? So these are all the questions we have related to oceans. So the researchers are even working on those things. Whales, being such huge creatures or wildlife, how are they surviving? What are their food habitats? As they are huge, their diet will also be huge. How are they managing? What is their specific food diet? And one more very interesting fact is the sleeping patterns. The whales have a very interesting sleeping patterns. They sleep slanted. So how are they able to do that? The nature of them. These are all the questions that the scientists or the researchers were not able to answer or not able to research on before the analytics has come to light. Now the researchers have a lot of data, a lot of opportunities to collect data and explore on their behavior patterns, food type, and their habitat. So these are the advantages we have that are most popular and come into light. So, as these analytics are collecting data, how do we, data scientists, data analysts, and data engineers, come into picture? Researchers are collecting data and they are trying to improve wildlife. But are they efficient enough to do that? Or do they want someone like us to help them out to get better insights? Yes, they do want us. We have very interesting wildlife data jobs such as wildlife data specialists, animal welfare data analysts, and wildlife data engineers, and many more, where they gain advanced knowledge to do analysis on collected data using data capture systems. They generate reports, dashboards, and metrics that support key animal welfares and business decisions. As we all know, data analysts' job is to build dashboards, insights, and give them to, in this case, we are talking about wildlife vital researchers. Using visualizations, the drones collect the data from different areas where the data is stored. With that data, we data analysts are able to analyze the data and categorize it into which area the data we collected is, or we can say that which area has the highest number of wildlife, its population, its habitat, its food, etc. We are able to categorize it based on different visualization tools we are having now that are already there. There are beautiful structured visualization tools where we can analyze the data in many formats using color, pattern, etc., graphs, etc. And data scientists or data specialists, what do is they take the insights and start building models. As we discussed before, advantages in analytics, there are many AI algorithms used, ML models used. So these AI models and AI algorithms and ML models are built by these data specialists and given insights to researchers, or we are giving them the ideas, or telling them that we can improve or we can implement these models to get better insights, to get better outputs, to get better accurate predictions. So we also have the opportunity to go into wildlife. As we are dealing about wildlife analytics, we'll see in the coming days that wildlife is also used in many more ways, and how many use cases the scientists or the data specialists has come up with to face or deal or to minimize the problems that we are facing now. So, challenges. We have seen a lot of advantages till now, but at the same time, we also know that for them to become our advantages, we have faced the challenges. Wildlife analytics is largely dependent on data. Yes, the researchers are collecting data, and the accuracy with which the model works is very important. So, if there are weaknesses with the data, there are weaknesses with the resulting analytics. Suppose if we take a very simple, minute example, if we make a drone, if we leave a drone, instead of identifying a peacock, if it identifies the peacock as a duck, what happens? Is the data accurate? Do we get accurate predictions out of it to make the analysis? No, we don't. So these are the weaknesses. The drone has to be built in such a way that it identifies peacock as peacock, not as some other bird. So the problems, the challenges, the training that the model has to go to identify the animal as that animal is very challenging. So the model has to be trained such a way that it gets accuracy. Need for large data sets. Using small data sets, we do not get better insights. We require large data sets. There might be inaccuracies in data. As I told you in the first point, wrong predictions will lead to inaccuracies in data, biased data, lack of sophisticated tagging, over reliance, non-consistency of data. So these are all the points that we discussed in the first point, but these are also very important. Lack of proper model building and monitoring, and lack of proper model deployment and monitoring, which is a very important task. So we have use cases. We'll be discussing each of these use cases with a supervised and unsupervised model. How we are building that model, how the data is collected for that model, how the researchers have analyzed that data, how they are able to draw insights from that data, and so on. Artificial intelligence and machine learning illuminate different ways to protect, conserve our wildlife species by providing accurate data about what is happening in the wildlife and why it is fighting harder each and every day to sustain its ecological nature. Artificial intelligence gives a comprehensive view of the planet's biodiversity and assets in forming conservation policy. So tomorrow, we will be discussing about the next steps that we will be taking, that is CRISP MLQ methodologies. So thank you for today. We'll be meeting tomorrow and discussing about the CRISP MLQ methodologies.